Hi everybody, it is Winter Mute coming to you from the Think Tank, and I'm going to just do a quick follow-up to a video I did a little bit while ago explaining kind of what kind of health issues I was going through. I'm going to do it just to kind of give an update and kind of explain what we found so far, and not at the at the very least, if somebody else has a similar issue going on, then maybe they can go, oh, I may need to go look into this. So one thing that for years and years, I thought something was wrong, but I could never quite put my finger on it. It looks like it is some sort of inflammatory disease. We're not sure exactly which one, but one thing that definitely aggravates it is it may or may not be the core cause of it. I don't think it's the core cause of it, but it definitely aggravates it. Is the kind of food I eat. So what happens is refined sugar, and not just refined sugar, but lots of sugar. Because refined sugar is basically the same sugar you're eating in fruit. It's just been extracted to be just pure sugar. So it's not so much just refined sugar. It's the fact that it's just sugar in general seems to really aggravate whatever the issue is. And the issue causes my muscles to just start to hurt and ache, and I get really foggy brained. It's really hard for me to focus. I have no energy. It becomes painful. So what was happening was this was happening for years and years, probably most of my life. But when I was younger, I never realized it. And when you're younger, your body can bounce back quicker. And you just have more energy in general. As you get older, things start to slow down, and you start to maybe notice there are some other things going on, which I think is part of what happened in my case. But so what I realized was it wasn't, and it's not just sugar. It's also lactose. So because I've cut a couple months ago, I cut dairy completely from my diet, and I started losing weight. Because I'd been starting to get a little heavier later in life, more recently, and lactose is sugar. That's the sugar in milk. So I have to be careful how much sugar I take in any given day or even hour, for that matter. So I drastically have changed my diet. So breakfast is basically just regular fruit. I usually have a banana or two, eat a couple blueberries, a couple bites of watermelon, because I take blueberries and watermelon with me to work, and usually some grapes. And then I just sort of snack on that all morning until lunch. And then lunch, I either have a packet of tuna, those like flavored tuna packets, those are good. Or I've made myself some like diced chicken with mushrooms and maybe some broccoli, and then with like a balsamic glaze on it. And basically I've taken out all the heavy sugar, all the heavy hitting sugar stuff. I eating all, and then usually a lot more fish. I even noticed one week where I had for dinner, I had Burger King 2 nights in a row, because I was just out late, I was busy, I needed to get some errands done. I'm coming home, I'm tired, it's after work. I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna pick up Burger King on the way home. So I grab Burger King, I eat that. Then I did it the second night for the same reason. And then Wednesday, so that was Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday I woke up and I wasn't feeling so good. I had the foggy brain. My energy levels were down, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'm starting to see a pattern here. Now, is it any one component that could be in what I would eat? Because I usually just get a Whopper with a Sprite to drink and fries. Is it, now, I know in general, if you have an inflammatory issue, you want to stay away from a lot of the highly processed meats. So it could have been the hamburger. I know a lot of the white bread has a lot of sugar added to it. So it could have been the bun, and then of course there's the soda itself, and then of course the fries could be problematic. Not the fries themselves, but what they're cooked in could have been problematic. Although some of the health concerns with that are usually a little overstated. And by the day 3, I was kind of like, I don't feel so good. And then I stopped. I went back to my regular diet. I stayed away from all sugar for the next couple of days, and I bounced back right away. So what I'm seeing is it's kind of like I was explaining it to one of the guys I work with, and it's kind of like if you take a month's worth of fruit that I would have for breakfast, and I eat that fruit for breakfast every day for 30 days in a row, no big deal. But if you take, out of all those days, if you take 29 days worth of fruit and you extract all that sugar that would naturally be in it, and then you sprinkle that on that one piece of fruit, and then I eat that, that's what's going to screw me up. My body can't handle that. It just cannot handle that much sugar coming into me at once. Now it can obviously handle sugar. I'm still going to. I still get to eat normally, basically, but I have to really watch what I take in. I've still decided to keep dairy out of my diet, mostly because even when I would take a lactate pill to help digest it, because I'm also lactose intolerant, which I knew years ago, I still seem to have problems afterwards. And so even with that, it helped with some of the symptoms, but overall I never felt great afterwards. So I decided that I just may be too sensitive to dairy in general, that I went ahead and I'm still at a point where I'm removing all that. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to have a cookie on occasion or cake or something that's going to have dairy in it. That's not part of baked into it. It's not that should not be a problem. I'm really glad that it is not, that there are, now it still could be fibromyalgia. It could be a part of it. This could be, how because there's still a lot of confusion about how some of these inflammatory diseases, what causes them and where, what triggers them and things like that. So it could be fibromyalgia, but it seems more like it's a severe sugar sensitivity. And then, now there's no test for fibromyalgia if you're not familiar with that. You basically, it's a diagnosis by elimination. You eliminate all the other things it could be. And then you're left with no other logical answer, well then it falls into the fibromyalgia category. And then it was not, and I was also really glad that it was not celiac disease. And if those of you who aren't familiar with that, celiac disease basically means you have to cut all gluten from your diet. And I mean all gluten. Like you have to be careful where you eat out. Even if you avoid bread, and you get something that's just and there are so many products out there that have gluten in them that you wouldn't even expect, like soy sauce. Soy sauce has gluten in it, normally. They use it as a thickener. So there's gluten over the years has been kind of, there's more purposes besides just baking bread and the way it comes. They can kind of extract some of those materials, some of the aspects of some of those foods, in this case gluten, and kind of use them in other food products to achieve a desired result in texture and flavoring and whatnot. And so unfortunately, it's been kind of, it's problematic for people with celiac disease. Now, I have not gone whole hog back into the gluten bandwagon. I'm still easing myself back in, because it is known that even if you don't have celiac disease and there's no signs of a gluten sensitivity, it's not unheard of for you to, for people with inflammatory diseases to still be very sensitive to gluten to the point where it can aggravate the problem. Why that is, nobody's quite sure yet. So yeah, and this kind of adds up. It makes a lot of sense now when I look back at other aspects of my life, my entire life. Like for one thing, you know how people, they exercise and then, afterwards they're like, oh, I feel great after that exercise. I have never experienced that in my entire life. Never. And I always thought people were bullshitting me. But now it makes sense, because one thing that definitely can aggravate a flare-up in my muscles, with hindsight, is heavy physical exertion. So for most of my life, I would exercise, and whatnot, like I thought I should be, but I never got now, physically, I'm sure it helped me on some level, because some exercise is probably better than no exercise, but it was inflaming my muscles, and kind of, I would never feel good afterwards. Now I'm not going to jump whole hog back into exercising either. I'm not really a big exercise person anyway. I would prefer to take a martial art or something like that. That would give me my exercise. And right now, work is very physically intense, but I'm doing so much better with it at work. Another thing is, when at work, I would start sweating after like 15 minutes to a half hour there. And even the other guys would joke, it's like, dude, how are you already sweating? We've hardly done anything. I know. But as the physical exertion ramps up and they start to kind of warm up and get into it, my muscles were already getting inflamed and I was overheating. And so it was causing me to sweat with very little effort on my part. And that also fits with another problem. I've always said I overheat real easy. Well, now I know why. Since I've started taking the ibuprofen every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I'm watching my diet, I can handle the heat at work, and I mean literal heat. And I work in a factory, a big open air, or not open air, but very open factory. It's very hard to keep cool. So on a hot day in summer, it gets very hot in there. But I'm able to handle that heat so much better now. It really is night and day in the difference. So yeah, I'm when I look back at a lot of the problems I've had, it all fits. It's all starting to fit. Another key thing was I could never find right, and I went through a lot of different. I tried cutting different things from my diet. I talked to several doctors. I was misdiagnosed as having some mental health issues a couple times, and antidepressants never worked. Mood stabilizers never worked because it had nothing to do with my mental health. As it turns out, it was all physiological, and it got to the point where I would wake up each morning like, all right, what kind of a day are we going to have? And one day I'm okay, looks like I'm gonna have a good day, and I'm fine, and I'm doing things, and it's okay. And then the next morning I wake up without rhyme or reason, and I just feel like crap, like absolute crap. Well, that's because it all boiled down. In hindsight, it all mostly boiled down to what I was eating. Because I may do great that day, but then I go ahead and think I'm fine to have I'll eat 6 donuts for lunch, not even care. I'm not joking either. That was normal for me. And one thing that kind of fed into this and not being able to diagnose it for so long is when I was younger, weight-wise, I could eat anything I want and not gain a pound. I mean anything. And I ate a lot. And so I want to eat what I want to eat when I want to eat it. And the motivation of, well, it might be bad for you, really didn't faze me. And I've read up on diets and stuff, and a lot of that is bullshit. And a lot of the whole, if you overeat this or you eat too much of this, it's going to cause you to grow breasts or whatever. It's like, shut up, that's bullshit. Well, most all that's bullshit. So I didn't, I just ate what I wanted to eat when I wanted to eat it, and that was it. Now I'm really trying to restrict my diet and watch what I eat, because now I see the direct connection, which wasn't there before. And so now the motivation isn't just, well, I hope this works. No, it will work. It will make, even if I feel bad today, by tomorrow I should be okay if I make sure I don't take any more sugar in today. So I'm doing so much better now. I actually wake up in the morning, and well, I've never been a morning person. I don't wake up and jump out of bed and go, let's go grab the day. That's not me. But I can wake up and feel like, all right, I'm actually rested. This is what it feels like to be rested. And I actually get up and I go downstairs and I actually start getting stuff done. Wow, I haven't felt like that in years. I mean, literally years. So I'm doing so much better now that we've at least figured out what the cause is and how to manage it. Even if we haven't quite put our finger on what it is, and we may never. It's just, you know, the way it is, the way it works. But if anybody else kind of is listening to this and kind of goes, oh, that's kind of similar to what I'm experiencing, you know, then it might be worth it for you to at least give it a serious try to drastically cut back on the sugars that you're taking in, if you do have a sugar sensitivity or something along those lines, or an inflammatory disease of some kind. Because of course there's scales. There are people that have diseases and physiological problems that will live their entire life and never really notice it, because yeah, they could be better, but but it's a lesser version, or it doesn't affect them as badly as it might the next person, so they can kind of get through life and not really have it bother them all that much. And God, you're lucky if you do, you know. But my allergy doctor at one point, way back when, put it best, because I didn't really feel like I needed an inhaler, and she goes, well, here's the thing. This person over here may need an inhaler to get through the day. And if they're at like 20% quality of life, and that inhaler takes them up to 70% at least, and then we make the rest of the difference with exercise and dietary choice and whatnot, then great. That's a huge improvement. But if you're at about 80% and you use the inhaler and it takes you up to 90, 95%, that's still an improvement, and you should use it. And I kind of went, you know what, that makes sense. So yeah, that's that argument makes a lot of sense. So even though I was not seeing a drastic improvement with the inhaler, that doesn't mean there wasn't an improvement. And now I think that some of my possible asthma issues, although very low key compared to somebody with real asthma, might be from inflammation as well. So because I really haven't had to use my inhaler in a long time now, or at least a couple months. So yeah, all that to say, you know, I'm doing a lot better. God, I'm doing so much better at work, and mentally I'm getting more things done. I also wanted to touch on, so I'm putting that out there as kind of a follow-up to the PSA. I also wanted to mention, you know, in addition to this, obviously I haven't been very busy on the channel, nowhere near the level I want to be. Obviously my energy levels have been up and down, but now things have improved a lot. But work is still kicking my butt, because we're still averaging 10 hours a day, and it can be a very, depending on what position you're in that day, a very physically intensive day. And then the summer heat is making it even worse. And originally they forecasted that we were going to have a much slower summer, where normally our summers are very big, are very busy, but then they're like, oh well, we should have a much slower summer, so we may only do average of 8 to 9 hours every day, rather than the 10 to 12 hours that we might normally see on summer, during a normal summer. However, the microchip shortage hit. Night shift has been laid off for the last month. And so and then our business didn't level out like we thought it would. It actually stayed higher than we thought it would. So it's been 10 hours day after day after day. Now some days we get out a little earlier, but again, you know, if it's a particularly rough day on that particular position, just by the way the orders come in, well, so be it. You know, you get home and your butt's still kicked after, you know, 9.5 hours. So hopefully things might level out, and we may go back to an 8-hour day, or we'll pick up again, and then we can bring night shift back and kind of distribute the workload a little more evenly between the shifts. So I'll have a little more time to work on the channel and whatnot and do some videos. But I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see. So yeah, just a channel update, PSA, a follow-up to my video about my health issues. So yeah, one other thing I wanted to point out. In my PSA video, I mentioned that if you're dealing with a doctor that doesn't believe you, and you're like, I don't know, this really doesn't feel right, and I really don't think they're taking me seriously, I said go find another doctor, right? I will also throw this out there, which I wish I'd known sooner. If your significant other tells you that you're full of shit, that you are just lazy, and incompetent, and it's all in your head, find another significant other as well. They're not worth keeping around. So I wish I'd realized that sooner, but so be it. Just a lesson from experience. So yeah, this is Wintermute signing off.